Hello everyone, welcome to another harmonic journey. If you've been following some of the tea and overtones episodes I've been doing, you may have caught one where I mentioned the Japanese way of saying grace before meals. It's very simple, itadakimasu, which means I receive. I receive. What a beautiful way to kind of honor a meal. And I've really incorporated that into my life in many, many ways, this idea of receiving. And we're going to explore that a little bit here today. And it can be a wonderful way to relax, move into loving, let go, accept, just simply saying, I receive. But first, let's establish the energy field. So we ask for the highest and purest light from the highest and purest source to surround and fill each one of us and the space that we're in for our highest good. We connect with our loving hearts and let that love flow out of us. As we ask for the presence of the Lord Jesus Christ to be with us, guiding us, assisting us, blessing us, and protecting us. We also call forward the mystical traveler consciousness from within our hearts to release or dissolve or transmute any negativity, karma, imbalance, dis-ease, disturbance, fears, worries, anxiety. You can just name whatever is bothering you right now. As we ask for that consciousness to take all of that back into the nothingness from which it came for our highest good. And we ask for the presence and the energy of John Roger to infuse all that we're doing here. And I always like to invoke the presence of John Roger, who's really given me so many gifts. Too numerous to mention, but this idea of demonstrating this quality of unconditional loving. And that's really where we're going in these harmonic journeys, always back into the loving. But you may have your own spiritual teachers, and you may want to bring in that presence into your world at this time, in which case feel free to do so. I know the aquarium that I like to swim in, where I feel safe, where I feel, I've got all the support that I need now, we can go forward. And of course, if there's someone you want to place into the light for the highest good, you can do that now. You can see them, you can just, so easy, see their face, or I place this person or thing or event into the light for the highest good. So now the energy field is here. Let's talk about receiving just a little bit. If you followed a previous episode of the Harmonic Journey where we went on a journey into abdominal breathing, it was such a beautiful quality, a beautiful thing to do. Again, it's a meditation, it's not spiritual exercises, which is another approach which relates to the sound current of God and going inside. The abdominal breathing is really to bring us into a state of equanimity, of balance, of ease, and a more of a meditative state as we not only sit with it, but also then get up and go through our day in that kind of calm presence. And if you remember, it was basically bringing the breath down. It wasn't doing anything. That was the key thing. And that's the idea of receiving. It's not like we're doing something to receive. In many ways, we're just opening ourselves and allowing it to take place. And if you remember with the breath, we started off quiet. There were 5 stages, and each one of them were very distinct. And it's not necessarily that you get to all these stages first time around. It can take weeks or months. There's no hurry. It's just the attitude of letting what's in our mind sink down. That's really the key. All of us are in our head so much, letting it sink down. We're going to quiet then those 5 words: deep, then ease, then slow, and then soft. And each of those has an explanation with it, and slowly we go down into our lower abdomen and just feel that grounded presence there, but also a deep relaxation throughout our whole body, a deep aliveness. Now, here's the key. Gravity. It's almost as if we let gravity take our mind or consciousness or awareness, is another way, into our breath. Remember, it's really we're following the breath, but the breath and the mind are one in this way of thinking, in this way of being, this Taoist approach. The breath and mind are one. So we're bringing the breath down, we're bringing our mind down with it. But here's the key. We receive. And what are we receiving? We're receiving gravity. I know it sounds unusual. A lot of times we resist gravity. You may say, how do we resist gravity? Well, a lot of us have got our shoulders up here. That's resisting gravity. Gravity isn't pushing our shoulders up. We're doing that with our excessive thinking, or we're hunching over like this. And if we just allow or receive gravity, then we just allow it through. The reason I talk about the postural thing, because that kind of creates the vehicle for gravity to move through. If I'm bent over like this, then gravity is going to go down in front of me. So I want as much as possible. Now, you may well be bent over from a spinal deformity or through age or any, that's okay, just do the best you can. But just have the idea that this breath or mind is going down through the center of your body. You're receiving gravity into you. And as you do that, gravity actually gives back. There's actually a word for it scientifically called ground reaction force, GRF. It goes down, doesn't continue going down, otherwise we'd all be blobs, right? It comes back up, but we have to allow that. But the first key is to receive gravity. It's okay, I'm just letting gravity. And once we receive it, our mind and our breath can sink down lower. So that's a receiving. I receive. If your shoulders are here, I receive gravity. Another receiving is the receiving of our breath. We've talked about this a lot. I got this whole idea from John Roger. Not taking a breath, but receiving the breath. In the Bible, it talks about God took the dust of the earth and he breathed into it. It's a beautiful image, beautiful metaphor, very poetic. God is breathing us. Just get that idea, and then we receive God's breath into us. It's a huge deal. And then there's the receiving of the imagery. Now, you may have your eyes open or closed. If you have them open, just allow your eyes to receive the imagery. Rather than go after the imagery, rather than chase the imagery, receive the imagery. Now, if you have your eyes closed, receive the darkness or the blackness. You may want to do a palming exercise where you put your palms over your eyes. It's very, very relaxing to do. Your palms rest on the heels of your palms rest on your cheekbones, and your fingers rest on your forehead, and so you have the center of your palms covering the eyes, just like I'm doing here. Very relaxing. And then it becomes very dark, hopefully. I mean, you may see lights flashing. That's just neurological impulses that are quieting down. And just allow yourself to receive the darkness. It's very calming. Something you can do before you go to bed or when you're laying down or just during the day. Just take a moment, cover your eyes, and just receive the darkness. You have your eyes open, receive the imagery, don't chase it, receive it. So we're receiving gravity, I receive. Receiving the breath, I receive. Receiving the imagery, receiving it, our senses. You could even say that the ears are receiving sound. I receive. So it takes away that thing of just going after things, it's like moving and kind of tense process. Whereas if we're receiving, it becomes much more relaxing and much more in tune with nature and with life. We're receiving life. I mean, we're not doing life. Life is doing us, really. In a sense, we're living, but not as a doing thing, but life is moving itself through us. So can we be open and receive that and be with that and not make so much tension and effort? It's a constant lesson for me. That's why I talk about it. It's not that I'm a master of it at all. But every time I talk about it, I remind myself, and hopefully reminding you, it's like, we can just let go. Now, the last receiving I'm going to cover is receiving ourself. Receiving ourselves. We're so preoccupied with our false self, which is that part of us that goes out into the world and we want this, we want that, and grabbing and getting upset. But who we are just is there. And who we are is love, who we are is peace, and who we are is joy. So if we're not feeling love or peace or joy, then there's a good chance, pretty much 100% chance, that we're not in our true self. We're not in who we truly are. But that self is always there. Are we receiving it? Are we allowing it? I receive is the deepest part, I think, of this. I receive myself, and self with a capital S. So let's just close our eyes. Let's receive gravity. I receive. Let's feel the breath and the mind sink down into the lower abdomen. And then I receive the breath. This receiving that we're talking about is not a passive state. It sounds like it, but it's not. Peace is not a passive state. Peace is a very active state, as is acceptance. It takes a very active consciousness to move into acceptance. It's not passive, it's very dynamic. Well, similarly with this, receiving gravity, receiving our breath, is a very dynamic state. It's just not tense, it's not uptight, it's not grasping, it's not grabbing, it's not holding on, it's not forcing. Those things are no longer there. I receive is dynamic, but it's free of tension, free of worry. So we receive the breath. No effort, no forcing. We receive the colors in our eyelids at this time. Could be darkness, it could be different colors. We just receive it. We don't go after it, we're not looking. We're just seeing. The images, colors, the lights are coming to us. We just relax, receiving, I receive. We receive sounds, not listening as such. There's active listening, I do understand that, but this is not so much an active listening as much as it is a receiving of the sound, whatever that is. And if it's silence, then it's the receiving of the silence, the sound of silence. And finally, I receive the self. I'm going to just spend a couple of minutes just in this consciousness of receiving. Berush Beishan.